Hey Adam, thanks so much for joining the show today.
Hey, thanks for the invite.
For sure. Yeah, tell us a little bit about your journey in design to get started.
Sure. So I'm Adam, founder of UX Pilot. Before that, I was working as a product designer. I worked for 13 years as a UX designer. Then I had my own agency for 4 or 5 years where we worked with startups, but also some big brands like HubSpot, T-Mobile, Samsung. And actually, the product UX Pilot was a side project within the agency. We're just looking to explore how we can apply AI to the product design, to what we were doing internally. And that's kind of how things started.
I love that. Tell us about UX Pilot.
So UXPath is an AI platform where you can explore ideas, visualize your ideas, use references, create wireframes, high fidelity designs. It's mainly used by product teams. That's very much our focus on product. And regardless of your background, either you're a product designer, or coming from a non-UX background like product manager, product leaders, or even founders, you're able to visualize things and kind of explore your ideas. And it helps either improve communication, so you don't need to write PRDs, you don't need to write requirements, you can just explore things and then share those thoughts with the design team or the rest of the team. Or if you're a designer, you can just speed up your process, explore wireframes, explore multiple concepts at the same time very quickly, or just go once you're creating your delivery, your handoffs, kind of produce high quality output to be shared with developers.
Nice, love that. Kind of speeding up the busy work of prototyping. I think like also like democratizing access to design for product people. It's funny because I see a lot of people making a prototype in Lovable or your tool, and they're like, I'm a designer now for product people. In a way, they are. How do you think is that overwhelming designers with like feature creep and requests, or is it helping people share ideas? I mean, there's got to be a balance there, right?
Yes. So I do believe using AI or AI tools for design, or even for any kind of field, we are raising the baseline so everyone can start from a better place. But also professionals will always have the edge because if you're coming from a design background, you can see what's good, you can spot those interesting ideas, like curate ideas and kind of guide AI better, even use the right keywords when you're prompting versus if you're not coming from a design background. I don't think it's a bad thing because it just improves the communication. Again, as a designer, we had challenges with stakeholders in the past where they couldn't really formulate their ideas and we had to go through a multiple kind of exercises, workshops, and so on to be able to understand like what's their vision, how they see things. It doesn't mean like we have to take that and realize it right it is, but still it was kind of a challenge. And I think with tools like UX Pilot, you can just visualize it and share it much easily.
So true. Well, I'm very interested to see what your take is on traditional tools like Figma, which are still like, very dominant in design. I think something like 90% of Fortune 500 uses Figma. They have their own AI tool. I don't know how advanced it is yet. It's pretty new, but like, how do you see the design software landscape evolving?
So interesting thing is that we do see more and more people using different kind of tools. I think maybe a year or 2 years ago, it was, especially even for design teams or product teams, it was heavily focused on Figma, but now they are open to additional tools to explore ideas, create wireframes, prototypes, and so on. So they don't feel they're so much locked into this Figma ecosystem. There are obviously a lot of challenges there when you work on a product, when you have your design system. You always have this kind of a two world where you have your thing as a designer, you have your components, your requirements, and so on. And then you have the same thing on the dev side, and it leads to all kind of issues where things are not implemented properly, where you can't communicate things with them, and you always have this kind of back and forth. And the good thing with AI tools is that you don't need to deal with vectors anymore. So I think that's one of the things that could make Figma obsolete. The fact that they rely heavily on this vector-based interface and usage. So you can kind of go and work directly with code, and even on the visual side, like with UX Palette, you don't really edit the code, but when you edit designs and make changes, you're very much like interacting with the code. So what you will get there is very much the final handoff, which is code, which is a direct translation of your vision to developers versus the whole thing you have to go through with vectors and so on using Figma.
Yeah, that's a great point. I want to talk about the UX of AI. Like prompting is where it's at now. I think to get a great output with prompting, it's not that intuitive. There's a big learning curve there, and I'm a ardent believer that UX needs to be simple and intuitive. So how do you see that evolving? It seems like old school way to interact with software.
True. So I think there are different things there. One is AI models and the way they are improved will just make things easier. So you don't need to go through all the prompting and explanation. For example, Midjourney 2 years ago, which is an image generation model, not really what we are dealing with, but you needed to stuff so many keywords and so many filters in order to get something interesting out of it. Now you can, with simpler prompts, get much more interesting output and designs and images. The same thing is we're trying to achieve with UX Pilot. So you can, by using your context, information about your product, or even importing your components or design assets or branding to be able to generate things so you're not relying so heavily on prompting and trying to explain everything into detail. That's one thing. The other layer is you need different ways to interact with AI products. So it should not just be full AI mode where you just write a prompt and get an output, but also be able to control where AI is applied, or even down the line, to be able to even manually control things. So we kind of see this scale or fluid way of interacting with AI tools. Some features are already out there, some are in development. So we can kind of be able to go between manual co-creation and full AI mode process.
Gotcha. Yeah. I think another question I have is, a lot of designers are entering the field today at a very interesting time where, will design exist? Or like, what is design going to look like in 10 years? What should I focus on if I'm just coming out of school? What advice do you have for new designers that are entering the field today?
So I would not focus too much on tools because tools are changing. A decade ago, or even maybe before that, it was Photoshop. I used to use Photoshop for web design. Then it was Figma. Now it's UX Pilot. Probably tomorrow some other tools will come out. So I don't think the focus should be too much on tools, but more on understanding principles. Certain principles just remain relevant, like understanding as simple as layout, hierarchy, colors, or even UX principles, how users are using a product, or even product related strategies, and so on and so forth. So those things are always true and extremely important compared to just trying to learn tricks inside Figma or any other tools.
Yeah, definitely. What roles, just, maybe you don't have the answer, but like a lot of people are talking about AI taking jobs. How do you see like between product dev and design, where do you think that threat is real?
One of the advantages that I see is that you can easily move towards certain areas of product that was not so easy to work with. Like as a designer, you can easily go down the prototyping, even coding, if you're interested in, without really having that deep knowledge into how to write code or what's the right syntax to use and so on. But also, I don't think like that should be the only path, like the design engineer kind of path. You can also be more on the product side, on the research side, try to understand like how the product impacts users. For example, in our case, we spend a lot of time talking to our users, understanding how they use a tool, going through our metrics, finding patterns. So those are all interesting areas also to explore. So you can use AI to speed up this process, not spend like hours transcribing interviews, analyzing them quickly, analyzing data as well, or even use AI for data analysis if you're not have the background. So I think the interesting part is really try to see which areas you're interested in and kind of explore that part a little bit further instead of trying to fit yourself into a very rigid and specified curriculum.
Yeah, for sure. Final question for me is fast forward 5 years, what do you think this could look like in terms of AI in design? Like what are some potential end states of how impactful and how much change this could bring to the field?
So I do believe that there will still be a place for true experts, like you're extremely great at visual design, animation, storytelling, and so on. But maybe there will be less need of people doing simpler work. So it will be more about how you would combine things together, how you would connect different parts of the product, how you would automate or guide even different systems without like having this craft or manual work involved there. I do believe that will be a big chunk of how products will be developed in the future.
Nice. And Adam, where can people go to follow you and learn more about what you're up to with UX Pilot?
Mainly active on LinkedIn, so you can follow me on LinkedIn. Start also posting on X again. So you can follow me on those two platforms.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing these insights today.
Sure. Thank you.